Hello mate, and welcome to Let's Code Season 4. This time it's personal. In this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to clean out our file a little bit, and then we're going to start taking some notes and planning our game. So, if you haven't done so already, start yourself a new project, and then delete the contents of the start label, just like I have there, and then jump in once you've done those things. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to delete the rest of the contents of the script file apart from label start. There's no point deleting that because, well, we've got to use it. So the first thing we want to do is create a new folder here in the game folder and call it scripts. Inside that folder, we're going to create another new folder, and this one's going to be called core. And then we're going to expand there and expand there. And then inside core, what we're going to do is create another new folder. This one's going to be called screens. And then we're good to go. So what we need to do now is we need to just drag all of our files, the ones that we currently have, put them into the scripts folder. And then we're going to copy GUI, RPY, options RPY, and screens RPY into our core folder like so. And then we can delete all of these compiled files like so. Just move them to the trash like so, they're gone. Happy days. So what we're going to do is we're going to create new screen files that are going to replace the text inside here, just basically to spread things out and allow us to configure our game a little bit more easily further down the line. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to copy the contents of the say screen, and we're going to go Control X. Then in screens, we're going to create a new file. I'm going to call this one say screen.rpy, and then we're just going to paste the contents of that into there. Save it, and then we close it. Then we can just delete all of this nonsense here. And there we go, we've got our file nicely removed. Now we're going to do the same thing for the input screen, just in case we write a game with some input screen. So we're going to copy the contents of that, Control X. Notice we're leaving the styles within the screens file. So we're going to create another new file. This one's going to be input.rpy. Paste that in there, save it, and close it again. Then we can just delete this commented out section here, like so. Next up, the choice screen. This one's going to be nice and small, but we're still going to do it. Control X there, new file, choice underscore screen.rpy, new file, Control paste it, get rid of that space at the front, save it, close it, job done. And now we can get rid of that. Notice that there is a define in there, but that's part of our initiation, so we don't need to mess around with that. Quick menu. What we're going to do with the quick menu is we're going to remove everything from it, apart from the save button, like that. There we go, like that. And then we're going to Control X that one, new file, quick underscore menu.rpy, Control V, Control S, and close the file. Get rid of all of the commented out stuff again. Next is going to be the navigation screen. So we get rid of that commented out text. Now we have to be a bit careful here because this is a long one. So we have to make sure we drag all the way down to the bottom where we get to the styles. Control X, screens, new file, navigation, screen.rpy, Control V. Now we're going to go through, we're going to remove the history. We're going to remove preferences. We're going to remove the replay because there's not going to be a replay function in there. Then we're going to remove the about section. We don't care about that. Then we can remove help because we don't care about help. Like that. And then that's our menu ready to go. So we can close that file after we've saved it and then get rid of this commented out text here. Next, we've got the main menu. As you can see, the main menu actually does use the navigation screen, but it doesn't matter. What we're going to do is we're going to just drag this one down as well till we get to the bottom of the style. Control X, new file, main menu.rpy, Control V, that in there, save it, close it, done. Close that line off there. Next is the game menu. Get rid of all of that commented out stuff. Select this and do the same thing as we did before. Going to come down to here, Control X, close that gap, new file, game underscore menu.rpy, and then that's all in there. Control S again, save that. Nicely done. Now we've got the about screen. We don't have an about screen anymore, so we can actually delete that one completely. We don't need this commented out section in there, so now we can copy the load, save and file slot screens, and we're going to put all of those into one file. Once we get to the bottom of there, Control X, and we're just going to create a new file called save underscore load.rpy, paste that in there. Check that we haven't got a nice gap at the top, which we have done, so we'll just get rid of that. Save it, close it. Preferences screen, we don't need the preferences screen, so we're going to delete that as well. You can leave these styles in there because you never know, you might want to use them later. History screen, we don't have a history, so we're going to remove that as well. Help screen, we don't have a help screen, so we can get rid of that too. Confirm screen we do have and we need, so we're going to copy all of that. Create a new file called confirm screen.rpy. Paste that in there, save it, and close it. Skip indicator screen, well, unfortunately skipping is a thing, so we're going to get rid of the highlighted or the commented out bit. And then we're just going to Control X, new file, skip screen.rpy, paste that in there, come up to the top, get rid of that extra line that we've got there, save it, and close it. Notify screen, we also need that, but we'll copy that. And new file. Notify underscore screen.rpy, paste that in there, come to the top, get rid of the extra line, save it, and close it. Now you might be wondering why I'm doing all this, and as I've said many times in my videos, is making your code modular and as easy to read as possible is vitally important. Whilst I appreciate that when Ren'Py was created, the need to minimize the amount of files was necessary. When I'm working with a big project like this one's going to be, having everything in a separate file just means that we can find it quickly and we haven't got to mess around. So we're going to, again, come to the bottom of here, Control X, screens, new file, nvl.rpy, just in case we do decide to use that, paste that in there and close that off. Get rid of that file there, come down, and as you can see, we aren't going to have a mobile version of this game, so we can get rid of all of this bump here. Save that file, and then we're going to rename screens.rpy, rename, and we're going to call it styles.rpy, and then we're going to drag that. Actually we're going to leave it where it is. That's fine. Cool. So our GUI and our options file, we can play around with as and when we need to, but that is our core kind of files done. So what I'm going to do now is in the game folder, I'm just going to create a new file. I'm just going to call this planning, like so. So there are certain elements that we need to put into this game in order for it to function. The first thing is we need locations. We also need players or characters, so we're going to say NPCs. We're also going to need some kind of character screen so that we know how to display. What I want to do in this game is have contextual menus, and we're going to have stats. This is going to be a life sim stroke stat management game. So we're going to have lots of stats. The player is going to have their own stats, such as health, strength, intelligence. Yep, ironically, it maybe misspelled that. I'm going to have perception as well, and endurance, and charisma, And we're going to have intelligence, and we're going to have agility, and we're going to have luck. There we go. We can get rid of health, because I think health will be a branch off of endurance. Like so, if you recognize that, there's a good reason for that. It's intentional. What we're also going to do is we're going to have NPC stats such as affection, love. What else can we have? That is the question. We're going to have a bit of think about this, aren't we? So the NPCs are going to need affection and love. They're also going to need... I'm thinking of having some kind of cellular phone messaging service. So we're going to have messages in the character, in the NPCs. They're going to need a location as well, obviously. They will need a schedule. So where they're going to be at any given location. We can have their... let's give them a lust statistic as well. And we can add a bit more to that later on. So what I want to do is there's going to be actions that you can carry out with each character, which improve stats. New actions unlock when stats get high enough. I'm going to have to add a little bit of skill or a little bit of research and perhaps knowledge into this. So certain actions will have positive or negative effects dependent on personality type. Yeah, sounds good. And what else? Outfit will change based on stats. Player must be able to. Player's going to need to be able to train. Their stats. And what else? What else? So I also want an actual narrative. So there needs to be a narrative which runs alongside everything else. And what we'll have is a dialogue system which, when you select a character, shows any dialogue options. Yeah, spelling. Available, as well as standard actions. Right, what else do we need? I suppose we need a cash system as well, so you can buy gifts and buffs. So you can buff up your stats temporarily, or you can buy sort of cool stuff that allows your stats to grow higher or whatever. We can think about that a bit further down the line. We also need to have some kind of, I suppose, what's the word? Some kind of decay or something to motivate the player to keep doing what they're doing. Because otherwise what's going to happen is they'll just breeze through all of the content in 10 minutes and then there's no motivation to grind or to keep playing the game. Grinding isn't always a positive thing, but in life sims it motivates the player to keep going. So we need some kind of decay. Maybe the longer you don't speak to somebody, the more their affection drops or something like that. Yeah, that makes sense. We need to have some kind of food and drink option as well. Some kind of, or energy. So that the player has to, manage what they do with their time. You can't just go and do train, max out all your stats in half an hour and then do what you want. So we need to be able to limit the rate of growth. Which limits the rate of growth and adds some thought, because you're going to have to sort of map out or plan out your days so that you can't just go and do maybe you can only do 2 different types of training, but they're fairly intensive in terms of energy, so you can have a nap or a snack or something. Oops, that's not how you spell activity. And yeah, some method of recovering those stats at the cost of time, and that means we need a time system. There's not going to be, I don't think, a kind of a free roam. It's going to be free roaming after a fashion, but I think we only really need maybe 4 or 5 times a day. So maybe, let's say 5 times a day. And you can, so you can only do sort of 5 actions per day. That makes sense. Okay, so I think that's probably about enough in terms of planning the game out. In the next episode, we're going to start turning some of this into pseudocode and planning our game a little bit more. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you're as excited for this series as I am, and I will see you in the next one. But until then, you take damn good care of yourselves, all right? Bye-bye.